understand what is happening right now, what are the key pockets of opportunity, because nothing is declining at the same rate. I think it's right now one of the critical factors is to truly understand what are those pockets of opportunity. From an industry, we're seeing maybe US is not performing so well. We all know US domestic, US inbound, but we're seeing certain corridors that are performing really well, like Europe inbound, intra-APAC. We're just having a panel around APAC, and it's a really interesting region.
So this is more a pivot than a panic.
Yeah.
There are tightening margins, there is softening in certain areas, but as you mentioned, it's quite contained. So what do you keep your eye on to make sure that you're keeping track of what's going to affect you, HBX, your sector?
So I think in terms of signals of the market, we follow a lot. I would give one word of caution, especially right now. Don't get the face value of the metrics right now, because under times of uncertainty, they can lead to misleading results. We just had a few weeks ago the US GDP, for example, it came negative. Everybody went in panic mode. And the reality is it was not because of softer demand. The demand was actually pretty solid. It was because of increased imports. It was damaging. So I would encourage everybody to really get deeper, what the metrics are telling us. And just to broadly answering your question, from our side, we look at it in two different levels. One is what is the macro environment, really understanding the headwinds, the tailwinds. So how the negotiations from a market perspective are unfolding. What is the GDP growth in each of the different markets, or the customer sentiment. It's one important layer, but the most important one is the micro factor. It's basically identifying who are going to be the winners. And in our case, we're in a privileged position. We receive more than 6 billion searches every day. That's a window into the future. We can truly say what are the corridors that are picking up, what is the type of supply, what is the type of demand, is luxury better than economy or not, and that is helping us to place our bets, what is moving and what is working.
Could be quite damaging to look at the wrong numbers, right? Have a little bit of a panic move. And as mentioned in the early panel today, everyone's moving at such a pace and with such speed that if we move incorrectly, the damage could be pretty severe. We're talking about being connected. You have a nice plethora of the industry here. How connected are we? Because I know we all work together. We have connections and we're partnered in some capacity. How connected is our industry?
Let me be a bit controversial here.
Okay, we're ready for it. The good stuff is coming.
So I think that we've done a good job in terms of connecting some of the pockets, some of the silos. I think the next stage of our industry is that bundleization, if that is a word, actually how we can put everything together. I think it has not happened, to be honest. And right now, there are many things that explain. We are a very complex industry. It was also mentioned on the first panel. We have a massive fragmentation. We have literally millions of players in an industry, and all of them with no standards. Everybody has their own technology, their own ways of working, their own languages, their own currencies, so it's pretty tough. But that's being, I think if we don't realize that it's being perceived from the consumers, from the end travelers, we're fooling ourselves. Because it happened to me. I'm actually planning a trip to Capri for a wedding in a couple of months. It's a complex trip. I have different flights, hotels in 3 different destinations. I have activities. I'm renting a motorbike. Yeah.
Sounds fun.
Yeah. But still, it took me to search in 20 different sites. And I have bookings in 8 of them. That's madness. That's the reality. So I think we're great in silos. We have not been able to take it to the extra mile and really interconnect in the connected trip environment.
So the report would say could do better on the connectedness of our industry. I think it's a fair point when we look at the personal experience. We're so close to travel. We're hyper-connected, and we assume it all works well, but booking a trip like that sounds difficult. Let's switch to your role at HBX Group. What an evolution from Bedbank to this much more fleshed out, multi-division, multi-approach company. You've been there through it. We've known each other since I joined Skift 8-9 years ago, and we've seen this kind of ride through together. So what were the big inflection points? Was there any points where you thought, hang on, we need to course correct here?
Yeah, so I've been in the company already 13 years.
Time flies when you're having fun.
Time flies, so I've seen many companies. I would say the biggest inflection point had two parts. I think the first part was our acquisition of GTA and Turico. It set the foundation of what we are today, not a truly global B2B powerhouse. Quite interestingly, many people advise us to do the integration in different steps. Probably would be still integrating today, to be honest. We took a bold decision and did a three-way integration. I think time proved it was a winning decision because it allowed us to accelerate the second step, that pivotal moment. That it was our transition, as you were saying, from a bed bank into a B2B travel tech, a marketplace component. For us, one of the realizations of that pivot was to understand that the value was not the bed, in a bed bank. That limits ourselves. The value that we had was the relationship with the partners. And when you get into that mindset, it frees you up to really understand that you can add different things and different layers into the relationship that add value.
Yeah, and we're seeing even more of that as our economy moves much more into the experience spaces. No beds in heads, but more of this connection and immersive. And we actually just heard that from the non-travel brand panel as well. So what did, in this really big journey, I don't want to simplify it too much, but what was the, yes, we got that spot on, that was great, like pat on the back moments for HBX? Any bits you didn't get right? Can you share?
Yeah, no, to be honest, I think that we've pivoted a little bit in certain things. I think especially when you want to get into that level deepness of connectivity, one of our great traits is that we love a challenge, we have a really can-do attitude, and that's amazing, but it also usually comes with the trade-off that you want to do everything yourself, or just have the tendency to do that. And as we were saying, we are in an amazing interconnected industry, so what we realized is that we were stronger together, so we kind of pivot our mindset towards more of a partnership and build. I think that Nicola, our CEO, when he joined the company, also brought a little bit of that. And some of our recent success, like fintech, we have the expertise in-house. We know where we want to be, what we want to do. Doesn't mean we need to do everything ourselves. So we're partnering with amazing companies, and that playbook, we're using it far more. You've probably seen with the Luxuries, Perfect Stay. Last week, we announced another partnership with 𝗲𝗏𝗃 in our results.
Forever with those new announcements, right? Never a dull moment. Alex actually mentioned it on his panel. He said, give us your 5-year plan. And he did allude that 5 years is a tough one to look into. I think that was a luxury we used to have and just not possible now. So how do you approach strategy at HBX now?
Yeah, I remember the good old days with a rigid 5-year plan.
3, 5, and 10, please.
I've seen 10-year plans, which is madness, to be honest. So we try to be a bit practical at HBX. What we have is kind of a 3-year strategic direction, but we remain flexible in terms of what are the things that we're going to do in each of the years. I think it's extremely important for us. We need to have that vision, you need to have that anchor point, what you want to be in 3 years, in 5 years from now. If not, you're just improvising. But on the other side, you need to be very flexible on the path. You need to make sure that you are able to adapt to the market realities, because in many occasions, you're thinking the market is going to go right, suddenly it goes left. Are you going to continue going right? Doesn't make any type of sense. And especially right now in uncertain times. We actually, just to illustrate this with an example, in the last few weeks, when the market was becoming uncertain, we sat down as a company, we took the decision of saying, look, the path we were planning is not the same one. Doesn't matter. We sat down, we came with what we call the short-term big bets in roughly 1 week, to be honest, and you take the opportunity of the market, you just remain true to your vision.
Yeah, I love that. And I think it's so important, given what we have just gone through in terms of uncertainty, economic turbulence, etc. Last week, Skift were in Bangkok, and Champ, the SVP develop lead at 𝗏𝗏𝗿 Hotels, gave a beautiful quote on legacy. He said it's like peer pressure from dead people. It's kind of like, okay, we kind of have to do this. So actually doubling down on your 5-10-year plan when it makes absolutely no sense, that's a moment of the past. But how do you stay true to your legacy, focus on executing, and be flexible at the same time?
Yeah, I think the way we think about that is that we're unflexible with the vision, but we're very flexible with the path, no, to get there. That is kind of simplifying how we approach this. It's still, no, I'm gonna burst a bit the bubble, because in order to be flexible, you need to foster certain things, right? So you need to have the right culture. You need to have people that are willing to go the extra mile to do things differently.
Hard people to find, though.
It's amazingly difficult, increasingly every single day. And still you need to empower them, no? You need to make sure that the organizational agility is the right one, the decision-making agility is the right one. If you're having 7 steercos for every approval, you're never gonna be flexible. And your strategy, no, it needs to be broad enough so you are not overly constrained, your processes, your business model, no? So I think the summary is that to be flexible is a well-crafted and well-thought strategy that requires pre-work. It's not a sudden decision. Usually it fails if it's just a sudden decision.
Yeah. So living in the grey, like being okay that you've started to roll something out and it comes straight back in again, is going to be how we need to condition ourselves. We are also seeing this evolution, and we'll talk later about specific regions. We're going to talk about India and the rise of that market. But the way that travelers are now looking to book, how they're making their decisions has flipped. We're now seeing travelers say, I want to experience a hot air balloon. Where can I do it? Rather than booking a specific destination. But there are many gaps now forming in what the traveler wants and what is being delivered. Can you talk a little bit about what does that gap look like from your perspective?
Yeah, I think there are many gaps, and especially if we think about the younger generations, to be honest, I think that we're failing them as an industry. I think that we are not reaching to them in the way that makes sense. No, they will expect us to be where they are in social media.
For sure.
To hear about that from us, no, from sources they trust, like social media influencers, and to inspire them. I think that we are overly used to convince in our industry, and that's a big fail. That's one element. But the other one is, even when we engage with them, we don't do it properly. They want that, as you were saying, that experiential segmentation. They want to understand what experiences you can have in each of the travel products. They want to know if a hotel is for party animals or they can do a digital detox on the room. As an industry, what we're telling them is, don't worry, you will have a kettle in the room. That's what we're doing as an industry. It's 2025. We need to move past that, to be honest. Sorry, and I will make the last point, taking the advantage that I have an amazing representation of the industry here today. The way we connect with them is too convenient for us. No, we are not thinking what's relevant for them. I think that is easier for us to try to push all of the booking decision and moments when they're in the origin, when they're at home. But we're not thinking that these generations, no, and every customer, to be honest, right now, they want to be spontaneous, they want to be flexible. So we are not supporting in being able to be there 24/7 when they need us at a destination and be able to book in a seamless way.
Yeah, I think we're seeing some players come forward with some good solutions in this space, whether it's hyper-personalization and kind of add-ons, not in the drop-down, arduous menu vibe, but really thinking about how we're approaching and using data. So how do you think, for everyone sitting here, they can start, whether it's leveraging data, insights, how do you start to close that gap?
Yeah. Before, I think that there is a mindset issue. Okay. Especially for these younger generations. No, I'm sorry, I need to
it's the peer pressure from the dead again.
Yeah,
the legacy.
Exactly. What I see a lot is that people think that is tomorrow's problem. They're 40% of the global consumption. They are today's problem. That's the opportunity that we have. And we treat them as an industry exactly the same as legacy, you were saying, the same as the previous generations, when they are extremely different. Actually, we have the Market Hub, it was mentioned before, and I have a keynote on Gen Z, and I asked the audience, how many of the people there, and we've already done it in APAC and in Europe, how many they have targeted the Gen Z in the strategy? The answer was 1%. 1%.
Very telling.
That speaks to itself. There's so many things that we can do, no, in terms of putting the right content, finding the hidden gems for them, putting the technology solutions like AI-driven, no, itinerary planners, dynamic packaging solutions, so many things still that we can do as an industry.
Well, Felix mentioned earlier on one of the panels that we could all go home this weekend and use our time to create our own AI travel bookers. I hope everyone's put that in their calendar. I did. I was like, is it that easy? But there seems to be some friction in kind of pressing and moving forward with it. And do you think that just comes from years and years of kind of operating in this format that feels good and safe, and they're not willing to push beyond that? What's the hesitance?
I think it's that. I think that probably we've been comfortable as an industry. I think that we are in an amazing industry, but still we have plenty of things that we need to continue doing, no? And we need to challenge ourselves across many areas. And it's not only about AI, which it is, but it's also about uses of data, no? As I was explaining before, no? For us, data is an extremely important part of our business. And right now, for example, we created a data center of excellence, and we have a lab within it, no? Basically, it's understanding what use cases we can do with that amazing data. Things like behavioral clustering, no? And hyper-personalization, as we were saying, they're amazing. But it will be amazing from some of the previous generations. For me, for you, probably. I'm not calling us old, but probably we would be wowed for that because we are not used. But the younger generations is the bare minimum. You're not going to surprise them. They've been born with an algorithm in their hand. They are used to everything being tailored for them. We are not giving that experience. So I don't care if it's AI, whatever we do, we need to change that. Obviously, AI is fantastic.
Amazing. So I'm going to switch a little bit. If you had an unlimited budget, zero red tape, and freedom at HBX, what's your big bet? What would you do?
First I would invent teleporting. I love travel, but I hate traveling. That's a reality. I'm sorry.
Call us when that comes in.
Yeah, but if I had to say something more scientifically viable, we've been discussing a lot now about the power of data. I can see how amazing it is. No, we use it every day, but I cannot stop thinking, if we truly could create that global intelligence grid, not only putting our data, putting all of the suppliers, the distributors, technology companies, search engines, you put all of that data on top, and you can have that real-time view of what has happened, what is happening, what will happen in travel with AI. The use cases are amazing, that hyper-personalization, pricing in ways we can even dream about today, or even solving some of the issues that we have as an industry, like sustainability, being able to understand in real time which destinations, which experiences are being overcrowded, and smartly inspire everybody towards some relevant alternatives. I would dream of that world.
I love that. And actually, that data and insight, when done correctly, is going to be our ticket to growing our businesses, being here in 5 to 10 years, and pushing our industry forward. So I asked Pedro earlier, what is the one piece of advice he's giving to his team at the moment? What are you saying to your team?
For me right now, the biggest superpower and how I challenge my teams is that we are overloaded with information. I think right now it's about, from the noise, extracting the value, but don't stop there. From the value, extract the actions, because we're not going to be anything without movement. I think we had a lot of amazing entrepreneurs here. I think that from a corporate perspective, somebody was mentioning, I think at HBX, one of the things that we do is that we still believe we're a startup, and I think it's an amazing part of what we do. And you need to keep moving, you need to continue with the pace.
Yeah, it seems to be a trend. Stay connected, move quickly, move smartly, have an entire team that is on the bus, looking at the vision, and then be able to be flexible underneath. And if you weren't in travel, if you weren't sitting here with me today, what industry would you be in? What would you be doing?
As I was saying, I've been in travel 13 years. I don't remember my life before that. Actually, the other part of my career, I worked in 10 different industries. I worked with startups, with corporates, private equities, venture capital. So I've done a lot of things. To be honest, Kate, nothing has hooked me like travel. We're in such a purposeful industry. We are an industry of connecting cultures, of making people happy. I would not trade it for the world.
No, I joked earlier, once you're in, you don't leave.
To be honest with everybody, I joined the industry thinking I'm going to be 2 years. I've been 13, and more to come. It really hooks you.
And on that note, thank you for your time. This was an amazing conversation. Appreciate you. Thank you. So, my final words from the stage this morning will be, we are going to head just to my left here for coffee. There are 2 ways of getting coffee quickly. So please split. You can go across the front of the stadium or just round the back. But then we'll all gather again and come back here. So when you hear the music, please follow it. Please move your cars if they were your cars. And the only other last departing note is that I'm sure you've seen all the incredible sponsors who've been listed in the app on the screen. The reason they're sponsors of CONX is because they're smart. They're here and know that by participating and being in the room, please go and speak to them, go and connect with them, and go and do business with them. Thank you very much.